basics about Python. Basically, the operators. Those of you all know what operators are, but still, let us just recall what operators are. And those who do not know anything about computer language, it's new to them. Now they can learn from this video. When you say an operator is a symbol which actually tells the machine to do a particular task, basically mathematical or logical tasks. When you say tasks, it can be mathematical or arithmetic tasks, can be addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, where you have an operator for addition plus and subtraction minus, etc. And how does it work? An operator works on operands. So you can see that plus is an operator. It works on two operands and it gives you the result of the two operands when the operator acts upon those two operands. Okay, then we shall look at different types of operators. We have three types of operators basically. In fact, there are many more, but we consider only these three here. The arithmetic operators are I've already given in the previous screen: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. When you say addition, it works on two operands. And how does it work? It works like this. I think I'll take you to the terminal node. I'm using terminal this time. From next time onwards, we'll try to use Jupyter so that I can share some problem statements which you can work on. When I say addition, the plus is your operator, so we can actually use 7 plus 8, which gives you 15. 15 is the return. When you return say 7 plus 8, you get a 15. If you know 7 is an integer, 8 is an integer, and you are getting 15 as the integer. In fact, the operator returns the type depending on the operands. Because you are using two integers, you are getting an integer as that. But if I use a string is any name or any set of letters which you use. Strings like Hari is a string. So whenever it is a string, I'm using double quotes here. You can also use single quotes. If I say Hari with multiplied by 3, the return is this. Hari is repeated thrice. Your string is repeated 3 times. It doesn't give you an integer here because it is the string which is repeated here, right? So return type always depends on the operands. Operands, what are the operands here? You have a string and an integer which gives you this. But if you use Hari plus 3, let's say, what do you expect? It doesn't give you any result. It gives an error. But whereas if you have two strings, then it gives you a concatenation of those two strings. So the operator here plus is giving you concatenation when you have two strings. But when you have two integers, you get an integer. When you have a string with an integer multiplication operator, then you are getting string. So return type always depends on the operands. That's what we need to remember. This is plus operator. Similarly, subtraction also operates on two operands. Usually the second operand is deducted or removed or deducted from the first operand. So like this, 8 minus 4 is 4. but with a string you cannot get that. Okay. Similarly, multiplication also shows two integers, you get the result also is an integer, and multiplication operator also operates on two operands, and you get the product. And division is on the first operand is your an integer which has to be divided, and 2 is your divider. So you get 4 as your result, right? So what happens, what we see here is you have 4 arithmetic operators, and the return type is always depending on the two operands. That's what we need to learn. Then let's look at the next set of operators, relational operators or comparison operators, what you call. There you compare two elements and you get the result. The result can be a Boolean operator, either true or false. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relational operators here: less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. When you see less than, it's only less than operator which is operating, but less than or equal to, either less than or equal to, one of them works on that. So let's take an example and see how it works. Let's say is 3 less than 5. The value is true. See, I told you the Boolean value comes up. It's a true value. If I say 5 less than 3, so that's a false. Or 4 less than or equal to 5, it's true. Why does it say true? Or operator has applied. It is not equal to, right? That's why it is true. Similarly, you can look at greater than. 8 is greater than 6, or 8 is greater than 4, right? Or if I say 8 is greater than 9, that becomes false. So the value which you get after return is a Boolean value. It can be either true or false. That's the relation. That's about relational operators. The next type of operators which we see is logic operators or logical operators. Logical operators basically and, or, and also not. When you see and, in fact you might have learnt in your mathematical linguistics or in your school mathematics how and operates. When you have a statement like P and another statement Q, if P is true and Q is true, then P and Q is true. These are the values which you have learnt earlier in your school or in your mathematical linguistics, etc., where you can say if P is true, Q is false, then you get false. And if the P is false and Q is true, then the P and Q is also false. And if both the statements are false, you get false statement. Similarly, or. With disjunction or, also you have both statements are true, which is true, P or Q is true. If one of the statements is also true and everything else true, but only when both the statements are false, you get false. This is, in general, we have learned this, but how does Python work? How does Python understand this? That's necessary. That's what we need to look at. In Python, the logic used is if the AND for AND operator, it returns the first false value, right? if not found, if false value is not found for the first, then it goes to the second and then it tries to see that. Then whatever value is found, that value is given. So what do you mean by that? Let's look at the first. Now when you say P is true, Q is true. When it looks at the first one, it is true, it's not false, so it doesn't return false. But then it jumps to second. The second statement is also true, that didn't find false, so whatever is found is given as the result. We will understand it better if you look at this now. P is true, so it cannot return true, only, and returns only the false value, first found false value. It is not false here, so it jumps to Q, then it finds false and that is returned. Similarly, if you look at first is false, the moment it looks at false, it doesn't go to the next one, it returns false. In the fourth one, if you see false, and it has actually returned false, it didn't even go to, in both third and fourth, it didn't go to the second statement at all. So what AND does is returns first false value. Okay, let's look at how it works in Python. Let's say 3 and 5. 3 is an integer, 5 is also an integer. Both are true values. So you should get the true value, which is 5. Remember I told you it found true value, so it went to the second, and it also found true value here and it returned that second. So 3 and 5, it returns 5. But if I say 5 and 3, what value do you expect? You expect 3, right? Let's give a false value. False is always 0. Out of all the integers, 0 is the false value. So let's say 5 and 0. What does it return? It returns 0. It looks as if it is giving the second value always. No, but look at this, 0 and 5. That first one is false, and the second one is true. That is your third column, third row here. So you don't expect 5 here, you expect 0. It returns the first false value. That's what you need to remember, right? You can actually extend it to relational operators and others along with the AND operator. Like for example, 3 is less than 5 and 3 is greater than 4. What do we expect? We know that 3 is less than 5 is true, but 3 is greater than 4 is false. So which one are we applying? The second row. So you expect false, right? Let me reverse it. Let's say 3 is greater than 4 and 3 is less than 5. False and true also returns false, right? So what we understand here with AND operator, we see that it is the first false value which is returned. Otherwise it returns whatever value is available. Now when you look at OR is the opposite of AND here. What it does is it returns the first true value. If it finds true, first true, then immediately it returns that. If it doesn't find the true value in the first statement, then it goes to the second statement. So when you look at the first row here, Python looks at true here and it returns true. It doesn't even go to the second statement. Similarly here, it found true, so it will not go to false, so it returns only true. And in the third row, you'll see that it finds false, then it hasn't found true here, so it has to go to the second statement, and then when it finds true, it returns true. And in the fourth one, it finds false in the first one, then it goes to the second, it doesn't find true again, so it gives false only. Right? How does it work? Let's say if I say 3 or 5, right? What does it give? It has given 3. Remember, compare that with 3 and 5. When you have 3 and 5, it gives the value of the second one. When it is 3 or 5, it gives the first one. Right? That is, in the AND operator looks for the false value first, and whereas OR operator looks for the true value first time. So let's look at one more. Let's say 0 and 4. Right? It is AND operator. So if I say 0 or 4, right? It is the 4 which is given there. Okay, if both are false and it's false, you can say only 0 and 0, or let's say 3 is greater than 5, or 4 is greater than 7. Both are false, so you get false value. Right? So what we see is a contrast between AND and OR operators. The next, so AND returns the first false value, or else returns the last. OR returns the first true value, or else returns the last. NOT flips the Boolean value. Flips the Boolean value meaning it changes true to false, false to true. That's all. So if you give NOT 3, it says false. If you say NOT 0, it gives the truth. It's a simple operator. It operates only on one operand, whereas you have these two. Now let's look at further a little more. We have been looking at only 2 operands for each. Let's say 3 and 5 and 8. What do we expect? We expect 8, right? Let's say 3 and 0 and 8. What is the answer we expect? 3 is true, so it moves to 0. 0 is false, so it will not go because it's an AND operator. So it has to give only 0 for us. Right? AND operator is not operating only on 2 operands here now. It can operate on 3 or 4 or more. And whenever it comes across a false value, that value is returned. Similarly with OR, you can say 3 or 0 or 8. What do we expect? It has already found 3 as the first true value. So it will not even go to 0 or 8. So it will return only value of 3. Right? That's what happens with your logical operators or logical operators. So this is one of the basics of any programming language where you have to learn different operators, and we will be using mostly on strings because we are doing NLP. And so what is useful for us is the whatever additional operator which we say plus, that will be useful, and other operators also useful in some cases. We'll look at all of them later. Right. So that's what we have here for today.